Hi, everyone. My name is Sarah, and I'm from the admissions office. I oversee the admission process for our international admissions. Um, Maybe we'll wait just a few moments. It seems that we have people still um, joining us. So we'll just wait a few more, like a minute, and then we'll get started. Okay, so seems that we've already got quite a few people online, so we'll get started. So once again, thank you for joining us today with regards to this webinar for on applying for Tampere University's master's programs. The application period has started as of yesterday, and it will go up until the 5th of January. So for today's program, we do have 90 minutes allocated for this webinar. And here you can see the topics we have. We will be recording, or actually we are recording this session for further reference. It will be posted on our website and in YouTube. We do not have the chat function open. However, the Q&A section is open and will be available for your questions. Many of the questions that you may have will more than likely be answered during the session. So I would ask that you hold off asking your questions until closer to the end of the session. And that way we can concentrate on then answering questions that have actually not been previously addressed. I also do want to remind you not to share any personal information. So if you have any very specific questions regarding your case, please just send these questions to our email address seen here on this slide. So it's admissions.tau@toni.fi. Also, at the end of the webinar, we'll take a few minutes to answer some of the questions in the Q&A section live, and let's get started. So when you start to get ready to apply, there are a few things that you should consider. The first and foremost, of course, is that you check to see what the program is that you, or programs are that you will be applying to, and confirm in advance that the program you are interested in will be open for application in this application period. The availability of our programs do vary from year to year, so it is possible that something that was available last year might not be open for application this year. So it's a good idea to double check those. The next important thing that's new for this application period is that Finland implemented an application fee as part of the application process as of the 1st of January of this year, so 2025. And this will now also apply to the master's programs as well. The fee is 100 euros, and it covers all applications to studies that start in the same academic term. And what this means is that you can apply with the same application fee for any studies starting in the same application term. So in this case, for the fall 2026 beginning of studies. And it can be, you can apply in any of the application periods, whether it be in the joint application or in a separate application, such as our master's application period, and without having to pay an additional fee. So however, if you were to apply again later and the studies would be starting, for instance, in the fall of 2027 or in the spring of 2027, then those are not included in the same fee, and you would have to pay a new application fee. Also, it's good to note that the application fee does not guarantee admission to studies. So and also it is not refunded if you cancel your application or not offered are not offered admission. So just coming back to what I mentioned on the previous slide, something to keep in mind is, again, the program selection, and it does vary a bit every year, with information being updated on our website in September of each year. To see a full listing, you can visit our website where we list all the programs available, and a link to that page will be posted for you in the chat. We also have posted a timeline for the 26 admissions on our website, and you can, this can also be found on the same page with the timeline and on the page applying to Tampere University's master's programs. There's some very important dates there that we'd like you to pay attention to. For instance, the application deadline, which again has started yesterday on the 15th of December and goes until the 5th of January 26. And it closes at 3 p.m. finish time. So that's UTC +2. The other important deadline to keep in mind now at the beginning is the attachment deadline, which is the 12th of January, and the documents must be all uploaded by the 5th, by 3 p.m. again of finish time. And there are some other important dates listed there as well. Of course, something that everyone's interested in is when admission results will be posted, and that will be by the 27th of March. Okay. Then we have the step-by-step checklist that shows the whole process in one glance, and it will also include links for you to different sections, so you can jump between sections directly to find the information that you need to find or are interested in. Also, at the bottom of each page, you will find the different steps involved in the process in the order of proceeding, and we also have an FAQ section there, so please do check that out if you have questions that arise, because a lot of the most commonly asked questions can be found there. Now, when applying to our master's degree programs taught in English, the eligibility criteria consists of two parts. There's the Tampere University general eligibility criteria, as well as the program-specific eligibility criteria that either specify or add to the general criteria. Our general eligibility criteria states that you need to have completed a nationally recognized first cycle degree, and in most cases, that translates to a bachelor's degree, which would in turn provide eligibility for an equivalent master's degree in the country that the bachelor's degree was awarded. The bachelor's degree needs to correspond to at least 180 European credits, and with a minimum of 3 years full-time study. The degree must also be from a relevant field of study with regards to the program that you're applying to, and it must be from a recognized institution of higher education. Additionally, as part of the general eligibility criteria, you do need to submit proof of your English language proficiency for academic purposes, but we'll get into that on the next slide. Each program lists program-specific fields of studies that are considered, and these are important when you're considering which program may be the best fit for you. So do familiarize yourself with those. Applicants in the final year of their bachelor's degree are also eligible to apply if the degree will be completed by the start of studies, which is with the deadline of 17th of August in 2026. And we have special instructions for applicants in their final year of their degree that can be found on our website, and my colleagues will post that in the chat for you. So please check these instructions if you will be applying prior to graduating. At Tampere University, we do not pre-evaluate eligibility, so it's important that you familiarize yourselves with our admissions criteria. And it's also worth noting that we do not have any entrance exams when applying to our master's programs. The student selection is made solely by the admissions committees at the faculties based on applicants' bachelor's degrees, academic qualifications, and merits shown in the application documents that you submit when applying. Okay, and now we come to our English language requirements. There are two methods to prove your English language skills, either with a language test or based on previous studies. The language tests we accept, as well as the minimum test results required for each specific test, are listed here, as well as on our website, of course. We also accept the online versions of the tests. The TOEFL, IELTS, and PTE tests are valid for 2 years. So this means that a valid test cannot be taken any earlier than the 5th of January of 2024, and it must be valid at least until the 5th of January 2026, and cannot be completed after that deadline of the 5th of January. Regarding studies accepted as proof of English language skills, only studies that fulfill the detailed criteria explained on our website are accepted, and these are, for example, an upper secondary education taught in English in Finland or another EU country, or then Australia, Canada, Switzerland, New Zealand, the UK, or the US. So that's a fairly limited list of countries. The list of countries that we accept higher education degrees taught in English as proof of language skills is fairly lengthy. So the full list can be found on our website. However, just to name a few, the Bahamas, Cameroon, Nigeria, Hong Kong, India, the Philippines, etc. So do be sure to check and see if the country, if the country that you've completed your degree in is listed there. And again, my colleagues could post that link for you in the chat. The asterisk after the term higher education is to highlight what we mean, and this refers to a bachelor's or similar degree in the country in which the question confers eligibility for studies towards a master's degree applies. It can also mean a master's degree, licentiate degree, or a doctoral degree. But again, more information on the English language criteria webpage. It's good to note also that a bachelor's or other's degree completed in any other country than the ones listed, even if it were to be a degree completed in English, would not be accepted. And in that case, the language test would be required to prove English language proficiency. And as I've stated many times, all the information can be found on our webpage. And if you have any specific questions, then of course, by contacting us directly, we will help you. Okay, so the application period, again, started yesterday on the 15th, and it continues until the 5th of January. And the application is submitted via the Finnish national portal called Study Info. And the application period closes precisely at 3 p.m. Finnish time. So be sure to apply well in advance and not leave it for the last minute. The link to Study Info is also available on the web pages of the program. So when you familiarize yourself with the programs, then you can also find the link to Study Info. Modifying the application is only possible during the actual application period, which is until the 5th of January. So make sure to fill out all the necessary information before that. Application documents can be uploaded all the way up until the 12th of January. So an extra week is given for that. But modifying the application itself is not possible after the 5th. Please remember that all the requested documents on the application are mandatory, and not submitting any or some of the documents may result in the rejection of your application. When filling the form itself, the application form is designed to guide you as you fill it out. And based on the answers you give, the choices you make with regards to programs, the form itself will ask you then for the necessary information as well as additional documents. If you miss a question and an answer is therefore missing, you will not be able to submit your application. So it will always guide you with filling it out, making sure that you have the necessary information needed. We've also posted a video on our website on how to actually fill out the application. It's a step-by-step video that shows you what's required. And a link to that will be posted again in the chat. It also can be found on YouTube as well. And once you've submitted your application, you'll receive a confirmation by email from Study Info to the email address you provide on your application. You can access your application via the link provided only once. Also, if you have modified your application or if you submit your documents later than your application, you'll receive a new email with a new link, but please note that only the latest link will be active. So always make sure to, if you have multiple emails from studyinfo.fi, then make sure to use the most recent link in the latest email. Okay, so moving on to the actual application documents. Here's a list of the application documents required when submitting your application. And on our website, they're listed from 1 to 7. However, the order may slightly differ on the actual application. For example, a copy of the passport and any possible residence permits will be asked for at the beginning of the form. Moving on to the actual attachment section of the application, the first 3 documents will be regarding your education. First, we request the bachelor's degree certificate, and second is the transcript of records. The third request is for an official certified translation. However, if your educational documents, the original ones, were issued in either English, Finnish, or Swedish, then you will not need to submit an actual translation. So that's also taken into consideration when filling the application. It will ask you if the originals were issued in, for instance, English. And if you say yes, then you will not be required to submit a translation. However, if you say no, then you'll be asked to submit the translation. Next, we ask you to upload proof of your English language proficiency. And this may be either your language test or any possible educational documents. And this is followed up then with the motivation letter and the CV requirements. Again, note that these are mandatory, so please do not forget to upload them by the due date, which was the 12th of January. And in addition to these general attachment requirements, then programs may have their own specific documents they require. And some programs either have additional questions on the application form that, depending on your answer, may then require a further uploaded attachment. And then some questions are just answers where you type in the information onto the form itself with no actual attachment requested. The application period, once again, ends on the 5th of January, and you have the additional week to upload the documents. And note that if a document has been requested and they are mandatory, and any missing documents may result in the rejection of your application. When submitting your documents on the applications, you only need to upload a good quality scan of the original documents when applying. Any officially certified or legalized documents will be required after announcing the results, and only from those that have actually received an offer of admission. But we'll come back to that in just a moment. So the results of admission will be announced on the 27th of March, if not sooner, and we will issue either unconditional or conditional offers. If your offer is conditional, then the condition itself will be stated in your letter of acceptance. And again, if no condition applies, then there will be none listed in the letter of acceptance. The conditional letter is sufficient to start your residence permit process, so that's something to keep in mind. And the immigration agency, MIGRE, can verify details on the acceptance via study info and will be able to confirm the removal of any conditions. It is a good idea to fulfill the details of any conditional offer as soon as possible. However, to make the residence permit process smoother and help it move forward, as well as to help you to confirm that you will be taking your study place and move forward with every other aspect of registering, etc. Officially certified and legalized documents accepted from accepted applicants must be submitted then by the 29th of May if you have any conditional offer. And an exception to this date will only apply if you have applied as a student in your final year of your degree, and so you have yet to graduate. And all applicants will be informed by email of the admission decision. And it will be sent to the active email address on your application. So ensure that that address is valid still through the summer. If you're offered a study place at Tampere University, you will receive additional information on the conditions that apply to you specifically and instructions on what further actions are needed for you to start your studies. We have a web page dedicated to info on how to fulfill the offer of admissions conditions. And on this slide, you can see an overview of the most common conditions applied. However, others may apply as well. So it's good to confirm from your documents then, if offered a study place, what the actual conditions that apply to you would be. Most importantly, you must accept the study offer in the study place by the given deadline that is specified in your letter of acceptance. The deadline to take advantage of the offered early bird offer, which Terhi will talk to you about in just in a few moments, or to accept a possible scholarship offered are earlier than the general date to accept the study place. So be sure to take that into account. And then make sure to submit your officially certified or legalized documents by the 29th of May. And again, the time is 3 p.m. finish time, and by then we will have added an extra hour to the time difference because of moving into summertime. So instead of UTC 2 plus 2, it's UTC plus 3. And if none of this is done by the date specified, you will not be able to register as a student. But again, my colleague Terhi will talk to you about financial matters in just a moment. And here we have some points to remember for those that receive a conditional offer of admission, which will apply to a majority of accepted applicants. The only exception to these are those applicants whose degrees have been completed in a Finnish university or a University of Applied Sciences, and whose degrees and transcripts we can verify through a national database, as well as those who are in their final year of their bachelor's studies and they have a different schedule. Also, it's good to note that when submitting your educational documents, we do prefer to receive the electronically verifiable documents or educational documents sent to us directly by email from your degree issuing institution. And if that is the case and we're able to verify the legality of the documents this way, then of course the offer would not be conditional. However, if these methods of providing your documents is not possible, then submitting the documents by post is also an option. However, in that case, then make sure to check if any country-specific requirements would apply. The country-specific requirements may apply to both the degree certificate, and the transcript of records, or to only one of them. So familiarize yourself with any necessary country-specific documents if they apply to your situation. And also then with regards to the officially certified documents, we don't accept any regular photocopies or officially certified copies issued by notaries public in other countries without the proper legalization. So all in all, we do recommend that you start to prepare your legal documents then well in advance to the 29th of May deadline. And because this date is not flexible, unfortunately, and there will be no extensions given if you don't submit documents on time. We will be posting later on in the spring, prior to publishing our results, a video explaining more in depth about these officially certified or legalized documents. But here just an overview again. So we have the officially certified documents, and they're copies of documents where the issuer is either the original documents themselves confirmed as true or certified copies. And as I stated on the previous slide, our preferred methods are either electronically verifiable documents issued by the awarding institution or documents delivered to us by email directly from the awarding institution. The electronic educational documents can be accepted, are those that can be verified using an electronic verification service provided by the degree awarding institution or a third party. Please note that the entire document needs to be verifiable using this service. For example, the verification service must show the exact same content as the document you submitted. And then with regards to documents delivered by email, the email should be sent directly from an educational institution email account within the document issuing institution, and we must be able to verify the email address on the institution's public website. Again, more information on these requirements can be found on our website, and the address will be posted in the chat again. Now, again, if these previously mentioned methods are not possible, then of course you're welcome to submit your documents by post. In that case, then check the country-specific requirements, as I mentioned on the previous slide. Legalized documents differ slightly from officially certified documents, and in this case, the copies of the original documents are confirmed by a third party, usually either within a postal certificate, stamp, or paper certificate, when the relevant country is a signatory of the Hague Convention of 1961. Or then, if that's not the case, documents by other countries are legalized in two steps. First by the foreign ministry of the issuing country, and then by a competent Finnish embassy or Finnish consulate in that country. And then finally, if you're already in Finland and you have your original documents with you, you can visit a Finnish notary public at the DBV office, or have the copies officially certified, or then you can also visit us and then show us the original documents, and then that way you won't need to send them. The other option is then to have them notarized in the Finnish notary public at the DVV and submit the copies by dropping them off at the university. So that's an overview of our application process and what will be required of you if offered a study place. And that concludes my portion of this info session. If you have any questions that were not answered, please don't hesitate to contact us at the Admission Services email address listed here. We do look forward to interacting with you and processing your applications. And now my colleague Terhi will take the floor.
All right, thank you, Sarah. Just bear with me for a second. I will share my presentation. All right. Can you start confirm if you can see now? Okay.
Yes, we can.
Presentation. Yes, excellent. Thank you so much. All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the webinar for myself as well. My name is Terhi, and I've been given the happy task of talking to you about fees, scholarships, and living costs in today's webinar. So I think we'll get started without further ado. I'll start with some information which is relevant for fee-paying students. As you might know, fee-paying are students who are citizens of non-EU or EEA countries who are studying for a bachelor's or a master's degree in English. Our fee structure at Tampere University is really simple. The annual tuition fee in all Tampere University Master's programs is 12,000 euro. So there's no variation between the different master's programs. The annual tuition fee must always be paid each academic year or semester before you can enroll for studies during that semester. So do make sure to budget for your annual payments so that you can make them in a timely manner. Semesters always start in late August and at the start of January. There are some exceptions to the liability to pay tuition fees. For example, if you already reside in Finland with a permanent residence permit, you will be exempt from tuition fees while that residence permit is valid. If you have been following us or the Finnish education scene for a longer period, you may need to note that there have been some legislation changes in Finland during the last year, which affect the definition of the fee-paying status and especially the exemptions. So if you think you might have grounds for an exemption, I do encourage you to check on our website for more detailed information so you can make sure if that is still true. As a rule, all of our fee-paying students pay full tuition annually. However, we do offer a very exclusive opportunity for academically merited applicants to apply for a scholarship at admission. The Tampere University Scholarship, which we award at admission, covers 50% of the annual tuition fee. It is a tuition fee waiver, which means that we will waive half of the scholarship holder's tuition fee, and then they pay the other half. And because of this mechanism, this is a scholarship that is available to fee-paying students only. It is a highly competitive scholarship. We can only award a handful of these scholarships university-wide each year. Scholarships are awarded on the basis of academic merits, and in order to be nominated for a scholarship, an applicant will need to excel and stand out in multiple factors in the admissions process. Financial needs, unfortunately, is a factor which we cannot consider. So the scholarship is only based on academic merits. Scholarships that we award at admission are always valid for the program duration. So if you get a scholarship for a master's program, it will be valid for 2 academic years. The scholarship is subject to some conditions, which scholarship holders will receive upon admission. But if you're interested, you can already check our website. You can find them already through a link that is available on our webpage on tuition fees and scholarships. It will take you to our students guide, which is our information source for current students, and that will already include information on the terms and conditions for scholarships in 2026. Applying for a scholarship is very simple. You will apply for a scholarship using the same studyinfo.fi application which you use to apply for admission. In your application, when you progress, you will get a question on whether you wish to apply for a scholarship. So to apply, just choose yes in as your answer in that question. In addition, we will ask you to include a short summary of the academic merits which support your scholarship application in your motivation letter. So this is a very brief summary, roughly 150 words summary of your merits, included in the same motivation letter that is required as part of your application in any case. Scholarship applications are evaluated at the same time with the applications for admission, and you will also get the results of the application for the scholarship and your application for admission at the same time. So you will get one email at the end of March where you will receive both the results of your admissions application and also your scholarship application. Now, as I mentioned, our scholarship program is highly competitive, but the good news is that all fee-paying students who are not awarded a tuition fee scholarship are eligible for an early bird offer, which is a 2,000 euro discount on your first year tuition fee. There are no separate applications necessary for the early bird offer. So to use the offer, all you need to do is to accept your study place and pay the reduced first year tuition fee within 2 weeks of receiving your admissions decision. And when you do this, you'll be entitled to use the discount and you'll be all set to start your studies. The payment schedule, we are aware here, is pretty tight, but our payment process is pretty straightforward. For tuition fee payments, we are using the Flywire payment platform, which offers a number of payment methods, which include bank transfers and credit cards, among others. There may be many more, actually, depending on where you're paying from. So the selection of payment methods will depend on where you are. Usually, it is possible to make the payment in your own currency if that's something that you wish to do, but euro payments are always also possible. Even though the process is pretty smooth, if you do wish to take advantage of the early bird discount, I do encourage you to also take care of your finances beforehand. Make sure already beforehand that you have the funds available to make the payment within the necessary time frame, and that way make sure that you can take advantage of the offer. All right, that was the essentials on tuition fees and scholarships. If you do have any questions on these, please post those in the chats. But I'll move on to say a few words on budgeting for studies, which concerns not only fee-paying students, but all of our students and applicants as well. As you saw, the only scholarships that we can offer are designed to help fee-paying students relieve some of their fee burden, and any other funding is not currently available. So it is really important to budget for your studies really carefully. All of our students must fund their studies and living expenses themselves, and make sure that adequate funding is available for their whole study time. If you need to apply for a residence permit to study in Finland, as many of you will have to do, the immigration authority, Migri, will have its own requirements for your finances. In order to get a student's residence permit, you need to have a minimum of 800 euro per month at your disposal. I would say that the 800 euros is a pretty good minimum budget for what you should have at your disposal to support yourself in Tampere, if you are careful with your money. For most students, in order to live comfortably, I would say that you may want to budget a little bit more, but you will be able to make do with that minimum. Obviously, your living costs will depend quite a lot on your personal preferences, so it is a really good idea to do some research on living in Tampere and the costs related to living in Tampere, so you can budget according to your preferences and make sure that you will have no problem during your studies. Right here on this slide, you can see some examples of what you need to budget for when you plan your studies, including also, in addition to the obvious costs of accommodation and food, for example, Also some fees which are compulsory for everyone, such as the healthcare and student union membership fees. These are something that each and every one of our degree students have to pay each semester. They're not big fees in some, but something that you will need to consider each semester when you study here. If you need to apply for a residence permit, also remember that that process will also cost you some costs already before you start your studies. The residence permit application comes with a fee, and also in some cases you may need to travel to another country during that process for your appointment to prove your identity. So when you prepare, it's a good idea to also check these requirements well beforehand on the Migree website. To help you support yourself, many of you may be planning to find a job in Tampere, and that is something that may be an option, but only an additional option. What you should bear in mind is that getting a job should never be your only plan for supporting yourself during your studies. In Finland, job opportunities on campus are not in the same way common as in many other countries. And because of this, getting a part-time job may be pretty hard. It will require activity and initiative. In many cases, also some Finnish language skills. Many of our students do work during their studies, but you should notice that it's not a given that you will be able to find a job, and in any case, it may take quite a bit of time. So because of this, it is always a must to budget carefully and prepare for your living costs before you start your studies. This is especially important if you will be moving to Finland with a family. Then obviously you will need to budget for your family members' living costs as well before you arrive in Finland. Now, even though you do need to be prepared for the costs of living in Tampere, Tampere is also a true student city, which for our students is a good thing because it will allow them to find many student discounts around the city. In various shops, other services, they will offer these kinds of discounts. As an example, here on campus, in campus restaurants, student meals are subsidized. So you can actually eat a full meal for €3 here on campus. Also, as an example, you will get access to student healthcare services when you've paid the compulsory fees. And those will give you access to basic healthcare with pretty affordable fees. Now, on our website, you will actually find quite a lot of information that will help you budget for your expenses here in Tampere. And it will also include some tips and experiences from our student ambassadors on what to prepare for, how to budget, how to plan, some tips for students. So do check that out to help you prepare. All right, that's it from me today. Thank you for listening. If you have any questions on what I've talked about, you can ask in the Q&A. We'll still hang around with Sarah for a few moments to answer. But do still remember not to share any personal information in your questions. If you do have any questions on your personal situation or any questions after this session, you're always welcome to send us email to our admissions office to the same address that Sarah already mentioned. And you can also see here, admissions.tau. At tuni.fi. Thanks for listening today, and I hope to see you here on campus in August.